Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for our January and spring semester in Costa Rica webinar. Today's webinar will be hosted by myself, Jackie Langdon. I've been working closely with each of you on your application and also with your site director, Lisa. Lisa, do you want to say a quick hello to the students?
Yeah, hi everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. My internet, I think, is giving me a little bit of trouble, but I'm excited to meet everybody, and I hope that you're all excited to be in Costa Rica. We have a lot of really fun things planned for you guys. So yeah, I will see you very, very soon.
So just to give each of you an overview of what today is going to look like. So first, we are recording this entire webinar, so don't stress too much about if you don't jot every detail down. We will be sending this out after the presentation has concluded, or for, people may be hearing this for the first time later on who couldn't attend the live session. So we'll be talking and presenting to you for about 40 minutes or so, and then we'll take 15 minutes to answer your questions. So you'll see there's a question feature on GoToWebinar where you can type in your questions. I'll read your question out loud to the group, and then Lisa and I will do our best to answer them. We will probably cover some of the questions that you may have in this presentation, so that's why we sort of wait to have the questions until the end. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So as we introduce ourselves, I'm Jackie, and that's Lisa. Lisa's over on the left, and I'm on the right. A little bit about my background, I studied in Costa Rica during my junior year. I absolutely loved it. It was such an incredible experience that it really inspired me to pursue a career in international education so that it could encourage students to go abroad. And for me, my passion lies in getting students to go to Spanish-speaking countries. So I've been extra excited to work with each of you. Lisa, do you want to give a little bit of background to how you got to Costa Rica and how long you've been doing this for?
Yeah, I am Costa Rican. I was born here in San Jose. I have been working in study abroad for over 15 years now, so a long time. I studied at Veritas University, which is where you guys are going to be studying. I studied photography there. And yeah, I've been with CIS since 2012, and you guys are going to have an amazing time, like I said.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Lisa. Okay, so as we said at the start, this is a webinar for both January and semester students. So you may be hearing some details throughout the presentation that are program specific. The excursions and activities that you're going to be participating on are going to vary a little bit depending on how long you're going to be in Costa Rica. However, you all will be arriving on the same day and participating in the welcome dinner together. So you will all get to know each other well, get to meet Lisa right away, and it'll be a great experience. But we just wanted to give you a heads up in case if you hear something, we'll give a disclaimer what applies to each program. But if something seems like, whoa, I've never heard that before, it's because we do have a few different programs joining us on this webinar today. Okay, so sort of the overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to talk about your arrival and what to expect when you actually get to Costa Rica. We also will talk about who you should call in case if you encounter any sort of like delay or emergency while you're traveling to Costa Rica or while you're in Costa Rica. We'll talk about your university and what to expect there. We'll go over your orientation, both CIS abroad and what's going to be happening at Veritas. We'll talk about different activities you'll do, which include our culture curriculum, La Vida Local, and the excursions. We'll talk about, this is my FAQ bullet point, banking, phones, and safety, your homestays, which each of you have received recently, and then our social media points that you can connect with us with. And then, as we mentioned before, we'll go over your questions, anything that you may have that we don't cover in our presentation today. Okay, so in regards to the arrival, so Make sure if you haven't already submitted your travel information onto your portal that you do so as soon as possible so that we can coordinate your airport transfer to your homestay. When you arrive on site, you will go through customs, pick up your luggage, and Lisa or a driver will meet you by a CIS abroad sign. If your bag does not arrive, you'll need to make sure that you fill out a claim before you exit customs. Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit about what students should expect once they arrive?
Yes, so the airport here in Costa Rica is a little hectic, so I want everybody to try and not get overwhelmed. When you're gonna go, when you get off the plane, you're gonna go through immigration, then you're gonna go get your bags. As Jackie just said, if by any chance your bag doesn't make it to Costa Rica, which is very rare, but it does happen, you'll have to fill out a report. So you can ask one of the representatives. There's always people around there, and you'll be able to fill out a report. And usually what happens is it'll come in at a later flight or something like that, and they'll bring it to your homestay. So make sure you give them my phone number. That's probably the best thing if that were to happen. The other thing, so once you have your bags, you can go. You have to go through customs and then out the building. Now, when you're outside the building, you're gonna have a whole bunch of people offering you rides. There's taxi drivers. There's like a whole bunch of people there. So, like I said, don't get overwhelmed. Look for the CIS or Veritas University sign. And then I'll probably be there most of the day, but it's crazy. It's a long day. So if I'm not there, then there will be a representative there. Okay. Always keep my phone number with you. If you cannot find the person who's there to pick you up, please make sure you call me. There's free Wi-Fi at the airport, so you can always add me on WhatsApp. That's the best app that we always use that to communicate with the students and also amongst yourselves. If you want to add my number on WhatsApp, you have to add it as +506 and then the number, which I think I'm sure you'll have. And then you can always message me. Like I said, there is free Wi-Fi inside of the airport, so you can text me. And if you have any problems, please don't hesitate to contact me. But like I said, just don't get overwhelmed. Look for the CIS sign, and then we'll get you home safely. Okay.
Great, thank you for that, Lisa. And you will receive Lisa's number and our emergency contact information as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, but this week I'm going to be sending each of you a pre-arrival instruction sheet, and it'll outline basically all the numbers to call just in case this or that happens while you're traveling to Costa Rica. So you will have that information before you depart. So in regards to the visa, I get this question a lot from students. The only program that is actually long enough to qualify for potentially needing a visa is the 16-week program. However, since we are including an excursion to Panama for the semester students, you do not need to apply for the visa. If you leave Costa Rica, your 90-day period that you can stay on through a visitor visa essentially starts all over again. So this travel option to essentially not apply for the visa is legal. In fact, it's what Veritas recommends that students do. It's what I did when I went and I studied abroad, and it really wasn't a big deal. So just to give you a little bit of I guess reason behind how and why we go about that option. So yeah, you should be totally fine with this option. It can take a really long time for the student visa to actually process, so this is a little bit less of a hassle. On that note, I think I've touched base with each of you who this applies to, but make sure that your passport expiration dates also complies with the entry requirements for going to Panama. So your passport has to be valid for 6 months after you enter the country in order to go to Panama. So to participate on this excursion, we need to know that you'll be able to return to Costa Rica without any issues. So yeah, just if you have any questions as to or concerns about that, just reach out to me and let me know. Okay, so now we're going to talk about travel documents. So the things that you'll want to make sure that you have on you are your passport. I also recommend that you make a photocopy your passport and have that somewhere handy as well. I know some students will get a photocopy of their passport and then they'll laminate it and sometimes use that as like a form of ID when they're traveling, or an alternative if their passport were to be lost. It's also good to have your driver's license with you just in case if, again, you do lose your passport, or if you are connecting within the States, then you don't have to get your passport out through all the airport security points if you're not getting on that international flight yet. We encourage you to print out your insurance information as well, which can be accessed on your portal. So it's an overview of essentially how to file a claim for reimbursement if you do need to see a doctor or file any insurance claims while you're abroad. You are each enrolled in CISI health insurance, so you're covered globally, which is really nice because if you're, traveling to a nearby country like Nicaragua or Panama, you would be covered in those areas too, if you were needing to see a doctor or anything. The pre-arrival instructions that I mentioned before are also important to make sure that you have a printed out copy of. I tell students that I encourage them for all these documents to take a screenshot on their phone and to also print out a hard copy just in case if they lose access to that one way or the other. Like I said, it's going to have the outline of what to do if there's any sort of a delay or flight cancellation and how to notify us so that we are able to ensure that you arrive to Costa Rica safely. Another point here is to make sure that you bring your prescriptions with you in your carry-on. If you're bringing a prescription for the entirety of the program, make sure that those prescriptions are in their original packaging in labels that have your name on them. I definitely recommend, I can't stress this enough, to have the prescriptions on you. I actually, when I went abroad, I was one of the rare students who my suitcase did not make it to Costa Rica the day that I arrived, and I was really thankful that like any like medications I needed that I had on me. So I always tell students in their carry-on, plan on if your suitcases weren't to arrive for a couple days, just have things that you would absolutely need if you didn't get your checked luggage right away. And that definitely includes comfortable shoes, but that's my personal recommendation. So make sure to make copies of those travel documents and to have those prescriptions on you. It'll make sure that it'll help ensure that you have a smooth transition over to Costa Rica. One other thing that is not bullet pointed on this list, but is written in the bottom there, is to make a copy of the front and back of any credit or debit cards that you're bringing with you. You can either bring those card numbers with you to Costa Rica or leave them at home with a trusted family member. It's always good to have access to these account numbers just in case if you lost your card while you were abroad and you needed to call and give that information to be able to cancel the card. So yeah, Lisa, do you have any more information that you want to share about what to travel with?
Yeah, I mean, I think you explained it really well. One thing that I would definitely add, yes, you do have insurance included, as Jackie just mentioned. However, please keep in mind that it's that you have to pay up front, and then you have to file the claim for it to be reimbursed. So you want to make sure that you have like an emergency, maybe like an emergency credit card, because you want to make sure you have enough money to pay at the hospital. Because we've had some problems with students in the past who don't really have that accessible to them. So that would probably be the only thing that I added. The medicine also very important, especially if it's something that you're going to need to take for the entirety of your time here. Make sure you bring enough. If by any chance you needed to get some here, we can always go to the doctor, but you might not be able to find the exact same one. You might be able to find, something similar or like a different brand or something. But it's always better to have the one that you use, the one that you're used to. Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Lisa. And if you're thinking you may need a prescription while you're abroad, or we're trying to plan on potentially getting it in Costa Rica, you can always reach out to me and let me know, and Lisa and I can double check whether or not that would be available to you or not. As Lisa mentioned, prescriptions can vary a little bit country to country, so we just want to make sure that if you have any concerns, we address that before you depart so that you can do some adjusting on the state side if needed before you depart. Okay, so I talked a little bit about the emergency numbers that you'll need. So on the screen, here are our important emergency contact numbers. There's Lisa's number, the CIS abroad office. Depending on where you are, if you experience a delay or cancellation, like if you're still in the States, you would call our emergency phone and then we would notify Lisa. If you're already in Costa Rica and are like trying to figure out where to meet Lisa, things like that, you would call her. Like I said, the pre-arrival instructions will outline sort of what to do in those situations. But if needed, here's the number also for the Veritas International Programs Office. And then we also have information on the U.S. Embassy if you needed to go and visit them while you're abroad. We will include all these numbers in that packet that I mentioned. Okay, so now we are getting into a little bit more university specific information. So on the screen, you can see the physical address for Veritas. If you look at the address, it loosely translates to 1 kilometer west of the presidential house. So addresses are something that definitely takes students a little bit of time to get used to. I know when I went abroad, this was something that I was a little bit like intimidated by before, but it's something that you are able to adapt to more quickly, I think, than you expect when you arrive in Costa Rica. It's just one of those things to be aware of that is different. But this can also sort of affect mail a little bit. So in regards to mail, we don't recommend sending care packages. It can be really expensive and they can end up in customs for quite an extended period of time. So if you're trying to, send letter or like mail between you and your family, I would try to, keep it to letters if possible. It'll just be less of a hassle. Sometimes the taxes can be pretty high too, like on going and picking up a package, even if you were just to receive like a box full of candy from your parents or something like that. So we don't really recommend sending packages, but yeah, that's sort of our little spiel on that. Lisa, I'm not sure if you have anything you want to add about mail or addresses.
Yeah, the mail service is definitely not the most reliable here. So I would definitely tell your parents, your friends not to send you care packages. If there's something urgent that you need to have sent to Costa Rica, say you lose your credit card, you have to get a replacement or something like that, there's a special mail service that's mine, it's personal, but if you needed to use it, you would be able to. It's just a little bit more expensive. But I always allow students to use that for emergencies. So but yeah, make sure you tell your parents not to send you chocolates or things like that. You can usually find a lot of the brands that you're used to here in Costa Rica. So don't worry about that. Also, like shampoos and things like that. We've had students receive packages like that from their parents with like their favorite soap or something like that. So anything that would be bought in a pharmacy, anything liquid, any medicine, those are all things that are really, really complicated to get here in Costa Rica to have sent to Costa Rica because of customs and they're very strict. So make sure that you either bring everything with you or that you buy it here.
Thank you, Lisa. And then, as we talked about way in the beginning, you will actually have two orientations. You'll have one with CIS Abroad, where you're going to have an orientation with Lisa. You'll do a walking tour of San Jose, and all the groups that we mentioned on one of those first slides are going to share a welcome meal together. And then you're also going to have an orientation at Veritas, where you can talk to them about any scheduling concerns. You'll become more familiarized with the campus specifically, a little bit more of like an academic focus, whereas ours will have a little bit on academics, but it'll be a little bit more also on how to stay in San Jose in a healthy and safe way, things like that. Lisa, do you have anything you want to add about either of the orientations?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to be meeting on Sunday. We'll have our orientation, then we're going to have a welcome breakfast and a city tour. It's going to be all you guys, and also we're going to have a group of CIS Australia students. CIS Australia is our sister company, so it's going to be a big group of about 25. We're all going to get together and get to know each other and see the city. And yeah, so our orientation will cover, like Jackie said, just CIS, CIS specific things. And then on Monday, you'll have the Veritas orientation. You'll get to see the campus. You'll get your Veritas IDs, and all those things. But I'll be with you for both orientations. So if you have any questions, uh, I'll be available for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely going to be really well supported when you first arrive in Costa Rica. I know that it can be, there's just so many thoughts that are going through students' minds right now, right before they go abroad for an extended period of time. But Lisa will be there to receive you. She's going to be there to help you get familiarized with through the whole process. So you definitely have the support from CIS abroad, both on the stateside and in Costa Rica. So if there's any concerns that you have during your program, please don't hesitate to reach out to Lisa or I. We are here to make sure that you have a very positive experience while you're in Costa Rica. Okay, so La Vida Local. So La Vida Local is our cultural immersion program that we have in each country where we have study abroad programming. It translates to a local life. So Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit about student experience with La Vida Local and what to expect on site?
Yeah, usually we plan some activities for La Vida Local, and mostly what I like to do is get you guys to participate by writing blogs, or even if it's like picture blogs, especially things like if you're running, if you're walking around the city and you find like a really cool coffee house or something like that that you really like, then just writing blogs to make recommendations to future students. And then you get some prizes after, at the end of the semester. We'll tally up the blogs, and then, like I said, you'll get some prizes from us. So, yeah, other activities we do like bingos, and we do, especially during excursions. So there's quite a few things. The point is that you guys get familiarized with the city, that you really become a part of it, and really enjoy your time while you're here.
Thank you for that, Lisa. Okay, so we're going now into some of those planned excursions that we were just talking about. So as we've mentioned, the excursions do differ depending on what courses that you're going to take and also the duration of your program. So students who are doing the tropical ecology program this January will be going on field trips that are mandatory through your class. And these will take place on the weekend. So the layout of the activities that you'll be able to participate on is going to look a little bit different because of these class requirements. The January intensive students will have a weekend excursion. The semester students are going to, since they're there for a 13 to 17 week program, they do have a few excursions that are included throughout the duration of the program. Lisa, do you want to talk more about the excursions that are planned for January or semester students?
Yeah, sure. So the excursions that we have planned for January, we are going to be going to Manuel Antonio, which is probably the most popular national park here. It's on the beach. There's monkeys and sloths. We're going to be going to the park. So we're going to be there for a full weekend. And then we have a 1 day trip to this amazing beach called Playa Blanca, and then to Jaco. We'll spend the whole day there. That's going to be a 1 day excursion. And then semester students will also have the Panama excursion, which will be in March. So we'll have that planned for then. We're going to Bocas del Toro, which is this like group of islands. It's very close to the border with Costa Rica. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. We'll have some tours, some snorkeling tours, and things like that. And then for the January students, particularly the tropical ecology students, usually since you have your class trips that are already included and you won't be able to participate with us, we'll probably take a trip to the Irasu volcano in one of the free days that you might have, and that's not too far away from the city. So I always like to add a little something because I know the students always want to partake in the excursions, and they can't. So we'll do that, and of course everybody else can join as well. So yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of fun things.
Yeah, there's so much to do throughout Costa Rica. I remember just how accessible everything is as well was one of my favorite things about studying abroad there. It was really cool that you could get, from one coast in just to either coast really in just a matter of hours on a bus. One thing I will say is I have a lot of students asking, when do they have free time? When are they able to plan trips of their own? Things like that. I encourage you to wait until you arrive in Costa Rica and actually have your first meeting with your professors to get a better idea of what your schedule is going to look like throughout the term before you go ahead and book anything, just so that you know when are the most important weeks that you're going to have to definitely be in class, things like that. I know some of you have mentioned that your family is trying to come visit you during certain points, and I remember being in your shoes and that being my situation as well. But it'll just be less stressful if sort of practice the Pura Vida lifestyle now, and wait until you arrive on site and know a little bit more about what the term is going to look like before you overplan at this point or anything like that. Lisa and I can definitely help with recommendations on how to travel to other areas in Costa Rica that are not included as excursions as well. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask either of us, but we definitely recommend holding off on booking anything until you arrive on site. Okay, so now we're going to what I call my FAQ slide, which is where we're going to talk about cell phones, money, and transportation. So cell phones, that's probably our number one FAQ. We get it a lot, and it really depends on what a student's personal preference is. So when I was abroad in Costa Rica, I remember Wi-Fi being, it's fairly accessible. Sometimes it can be a little bit spottier than what we're used to in the United States, but that's all part of the experience. So myself and other students, sometimes we would just put our phone on airplane mode and connect to Wi-Fi whenever we wanted to text and connect with people back home. And then you can always have a pay-as-you-go phone that you can use to stay in touch, to have on you if you need a phone to contact people within Costa Rica. But like I said, it really just depends on personal preference, but for some students, having a smartphone that remains on airplane mode and is connected to Wi-Fi can be enough. Some students will research international plans. We don't typically recommend this because it can be quite a bit expensive to have this, and as I mentioned, the Wi-Fi is pretty accessible, so it may not be as worth it, but probably one of our more popular options is students will unlock their phone before they go abroad, and then you can purchase a SIM card where you can be in touch on that phone while you're in Costa Rica and don't necessarily need to be connected to Wi-Fi. Lisa, do you maybe want to talk a little bit about what students do and when they can, purchase the phone-related items they may need?
Yeah, that's definitely a good call. Like Jackie was saying, internet is definitely very accessible in restaurants and pretty much everywhere that you go. There's going to be free Wi-Fi. Veritas has Wi-Fi. Your homestays will have Wi-Fi. So to communicate back home, usually students will, there's so many apps, so many free apps to make calls. There's Skype. There's WhatsApp. Like I was saying before, that's definitely the best way and the cheapest. And yeah, buying just a cheap pay-as-you-go phone once you're on site, we can probably do that maybe on Sunday or during the first week. You'll be able to buy some just cheap phones, which are usually about $25-$30 maybe. But yeah, the Wi-Fi is definitely the best way for everybody to keep in touch. Like I said, if you can download WhatsApp, make sure you download it before coming to Costa Rica. Because that'll be, I think that's the most common thing that people use here. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, WhatsApp is still how I communicate with my host family back in Costa Rica and my friends there too. So it is very commonly used there. Yeah, so what Lisa said is all very true. I will say that I remember when I was a student that it was really easy to reload minutes onto my disposable phone too. I just was able to do it in like the grocery store checkout, and I'd just be like, "Oh, I want to put like $10 of credit onto my phone," like whenever it was starting to run low on minutes. So that was I ended up not using the flip phone that much, but I just wanted to have something in case of like I didn't have Wi-Fi and I needed to contact someone in case of an emergency, but the Wi-Fi is very accessible, and if you keep your airplane mode, it can be your phone on airplane mode. It can be a really good option for students. So our next point is sort of money and budgeting in Costa Rica. So ATMs are definitely very accessible in Costa Rica. I recommend trying to go to ATMs less to try to avoid getting as many ATM fees and taking out larger sums of cash, and then, finding a secure place to store that money so that you just don't have those fees as often. I also encourage you to contact your bank and ask if they have any sister banks in Costa Rica to see if it's potentially avoidable to pay ATM fees. Sometimes banks have international relationships where they'll say, "Oh yeah, this is our partner bank here, and if you withdraw from this particular bank, you won't get as hefty of ATM fees." So that's definitely something I would say is on your to-do list before you leave the States. Um, and also make sure to call and let your bank know what dates that you're going to be traveling in Costa Rica. You don't want to get there and try to, take money out of an ATM and your card is all of a sudden shut down. So make sure you're notifying them. If you're traveling outside of the country, I know I took a bus to Nicaragua a few times and to Panama. I would always call my bank through Skype when I was at my homestay and let them know, like, hey, I'm going to be like in Panama from this day to this day, just so you know, and don't shut off the card. So make sure you're keeping your bank informed of your travel plans as well. Um, let's see. So one thing that we have the conversion up here just so you can kind of get used to what it's going to be, what it's going to look like, your expenses. So I remember it definitely took me a little bit of time to realize that when I got like a bill that said like, oh, something cost 1,000, that was actually only like $2 US. So it can be something that takes a little bit of time to, adjust to mentally, but you get the hang of it soon enough. Lisa, do you have anything to say about budgeting and money in Costa Rica?
Yeah, well, ATMs are definitely the best way to go. Like Jackie was saying, I would recommend checking with your bank to see what the bank fees are. Sometimes there will be a local fee as well for the ATM. So yeah, taking out, usually it works best to take out just a bit of money and then keeping it safe in your homestays. As far as budgeting, remember that you guys have breakfast and dinner included in your homestays, but you will have to pay for your lunch. So make sure that you budget for that. There's a whole bunch of restaurants very close to the university. Some homestay families will allow you to keep food in the kitchen, but that's not everybody. That really depends on the family. But yeah, make sure that you budget for your lunches and of course for your weekend excursions if you want to travel on your own. I'm sure you're going to want to be seeing as much of the country as you can. So make sure you budget for that. Okay.
Thank you for that, Lisa. And one other thing I will say is while ATMs are accessible and your debit cards will work in a lot of places, Costa Rica is definitely more of a cash prevalent society than what we're used to in the US. So I remember when I was a student in Costa Rica, there would just be like really cool like jewelry and art stands that would like pop up near campus occasionally, and I would always be happy that I would have some colones on me just in case if I saw something that I wanted to buy that particular day. So I think it's a good idea to always have just a little bit of cash on you because it's just a more cash prevalent society than what we're used to, so you can't use your card everywhere. It's accessible in most places, but that's something that I think can take students a little bit of time to get adjusted to as well. So, in regards to transportation, there is really good public transportation in San Jose. Both taxis and buses are very accessible. Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about transportation in Costa Rica?
Yeah, well, the area that you're going to be living in and the where the school is, it's very close to downtown. So it's very easy to walk to downtown. There are public buses, there's taxis. Also, Uber right now is really big. So I always recommend Uber. I think it's safer and it's also cheaper than taxis. Um, it's with the addresses, what Jackie was saying about the addresses, yeah, you'll get used to it once you're here. But like I said, you're going to be very close to downtown and to a lot of really cool areas, so you'll be walking a lot, I'm sure. um, there's public buses that go outside of the city as well if you want to travel on your own, if you want to go to the beach. The bus stations are usually in the downtown area, but we can talk about that a little bit more once you're on site, and I can kind of show you how to get around a little bit. And but yeah, it's usually very easy. The university Veritas has a shuttle that goes around the neighborhood where you're living, so you can take the shuttle in the mornings and then in the afternoons after your classes. This is for just for your convenience and for safety. So there's definitely a lot of ways to get around in the city.
Thank you for that, Lisa. Yeah, so I really enjoyed using like the public transportation while I was in Costa Rica. I'd love to, get a window seat and just look at all the different little neighborhoods I was traveling through and things like that. So it was something that I really enjoyed personally while I was a student abroad. Um, yeah, so that sort of wraps up what we have for transportation, but we wanted to touch base a little bit about safety as well. So you will see in your portal that the CIS Abroad Code of Conduct, each of you has signed it to be able to participate on our program. So you will need to follow the Code of Conduct on site, which we just like to bring this up because we want to remind you that your health and safety is our priority when you're going abroad. So we have these rules in place to try to ensure as much as possible that you have a healthy and safe time while you're abroad. So please make sure that you are following these rules, and if you have any question about anything in the code of conduct, let me know and I'd be happy to answer that for you. On a general safety note, just please make sure that you are aware of your surroundings and travel in groups as much as possible. I know that there's sort of these different like stages of when you're adjusting to living in a culture abroad. At first, it can be a little bit intimidating, and you're trying to, become aware of just your new lifestyle. But then there's sort of this phase where you start to get a hang of things, and sometimes students can develop a like almost false sense of security or confidence. So it's definitely a really good feeling when you start to become more familiar with what's going on around you. But we just encourage you to stay aware of your surroundings, no matter how familiar things may start to seem. Lisa, do you have any other health or safety items you'd like to touch on now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it really well. Definitely, use common sense. Make sure that you're not walking around with like your computer and your camera and all these things. Um, San Jose is a safe city, but like of course, like in any other city, there's petty theft and there's things that happen. So for us, the biggest thing is that you guys are safe while you're on site. Um, follow all our directions and our advice. Make sure you use the shuttle, and that you're not walking, especially at night, you're not walking by yourself. Just little things like that. We're going to be talking a lot more about safety in the CIS orientation and also in the Veritas orientation. I think they actually are going to have somebody from the U.S. Embassy come and talk to you guys. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things for us. We want to make sure that you're safe and that you enjoy your time here and that you don't have any bad experiences.
Thank you for that, Lisa. Okay, so now we'll go into a little bit about what to pack. So I know we touched on what to plan to pack in your carry-on, just in case if your suitcase doesn't arrive on time. But in general, we definitely encourage you to pack light. Things are definitely accessible in Costa Rica more so than you may think. Like if you forgot like certain types of clothing, you can definitely purchase similar items while you're abroad. So don't stress out too much. I definitely encourage you to pack on the lighter side. Try to leave some room in your suitcases to bring all of the cool things that you find while you're in Costa Rica. I know I personally collected quite a bit of art because I was just very obsessed with all the little cool knickknacks I found throughout the country. So that's what I needed to leave room for. So just so that you can plan as well. As we said before, I definitely encourage you to bring things in your carry-on that you would need for the first couple days, just in case. Comfortable shoes and prescriptions are the first things that come to mind for me. And then do have a sample packing list available on our website. If you need me to send that to you, just let me know. So you can access that and read it more in depth. But Lisa, is there anything now that you want to recommend students to pack for this time of year?
Well, you guys are coming during our summer or dry season, so it's the best time to come as far as weather goes. It's remember we're still in the northern hemisphere though, so we still get a little bit of that chilly like wind. It's going to be hopefully very nice weather, very sunny, very clear, and very warm, but with a little bit of a chilly wind. At night, it can also get a little bit cold. The weather has been a little weird lately, I think, because everywhere in the world. So I'll make sure you bring a sweater, make sure you bring a rain jacket, even though we're in our dry season, it's the tropics and it can rain at any time. Yeah, just be prepared kind of for all kinds of weather, not too cold. Of course, it's never going to be as cold as what you guys are used to. But definitely a sweater and a rain jacket are always good options. Very comfortable shoes because you're going to be walking around a lot. Your beach clothes, of course. And yeah, and there's also stores here where you can buy things. You know, if you forget something, you can always go do a little shopping here, which is always good.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. Yeah, one thing that you just sparked my memory when you were saying that, it definitely doesn't get very cold in Costa Rica, but I remember one thing I was surprised by is sometimes I would get a little bit cold, like in my house at night. So I liked having like a casual, like kind of like cardigan or sweater that I would like wear around the house when I was just like hanging out with my family, but I didn't feel like being totally dressed up. So just to be nice and cozy, that was something that I recommend. Definitely recommend having a raincoat just in case. And those tend to be, I feel like, a good thickness of a coat that you could potentially need in Costa Rica, even if it's not wearing raining. They just tend to be like a little bit on the thinner side. So I wore my raincoat a lot while I was traveling because it'd be comfortable on a bus if there was like if it was super air conditioned and I was cold, but not too overwhelming. So yeah. We talked already about prescriptions and the importance of having them in their original packaging and with labels that have your name on them. So we won't, you know, talk about that too much now. Two things that we do recommend that you bring with you in your checked baggage, if you can, is a big thing of sunscreen and bug spray. So these items are definitely more expensive in Costa Rica. So if you're able to bring like a supply with you, that's something that I recommend, but I wouldn't worry too much about bringing other toiletries with you. I think the prices are pretty comparable to the US. So those are just the things that you may have kind of like a, whoa, that's expensive moment, because both of those items are very commonly needed there. Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about areas where students could buy items for daily use, such as toiletries?
Yeah, there's a ton of supermarkets very close to where you're going to be. There's a place called Automercado, which is a little bit it's a little bit pricier, but you're going to find a lot of the brands that you're used to. But there's other supermarkets as well that are a little bit cheaper. There's a place called Pequeño Mundo, which is like crazy cheap, and there's clothes and there's food and everything. So there's definitely a lot of places where you'll be able to find stuff. But yeah, sunscreen and bug spray, very, very important. And they're a little bit on the pricier side, so I would definitely recommend bringing them home. But yeah, other than that, you should be able to find pretty much everything that you need here.
Great, thank you. So we talked a little bit about the weather in this last point, what to expect with that. But we do also want to touch base on cultural norms. In regards to like what you'll be wearing on campus, it's a lot less common in Costa Rica for students to wear like athletic wear to class. Typically, I remember I think I wore jeans like almost every day, even when it's warm outside too. This is specific. This is pretty specific for the women in this group. We would recommend wearing like longer pants um, or yeah, it's more common to wear longer pants because catcalling is definitely a thing in Costa Rica. Sometimes if you're even wearing long pants, you know, you can't always totally avoid it. But if it's something that you're wanting to, um, you know, have happen maybe a little less, we wouldn't recommend wearing like short shorts on campus or things like that. And it's not something that's very common in Costa Rica either. So you know, you can definitely wear what you want, but we like to let students know like this is sort of what's like culturally appropriate and what you can expect other students to be wearing, just so that you're able to you know, kind of know the perceptions there. Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about maybe cultural norms and clothing?
Yeah, definitely short shorts are not really worn, especially in the city. In the beach, it's totally fine. You know, of course, you're going to be wearing your beach clothes and stuff, and short shorts are fine there. But in the city, I would definitely recommend wearing, you know, jeans, pants, you know, like even capris or things like that. Long, you know, longer skirts. That's totally fine. Shorts are not really worn in the city, not too much. Um, but and yeah, like what Jackie was saying about the catcalling, um, you'll see that most of the girls here, you know, they wear, like I said, jeans, um, and for class especially, don't wear, yeah, the short shorts or like the sports, you know, like sports clothes and things like that. It's probably best not to wear those. When the weekends, when you're off outside of the city traveling, you should be fine, you know, wearing a, you know, very comfortable clothes and things like that.
Thank you for that, Lisa. Okay, so social media and next steps. So make sure. So this top note is really the two items that you really need to make sure that you submit before your departure, which is your travel information and your medical information. This is so, like we said, that we can ensure that you're going abroad in a healthy and safe way. And if there's anything that we need to follow up with you on, we really just want to have this information so that we can advise you as best as we can. Make sure that you have done if you're planning on taking classes in Spanish that aren't Clasical Uno, you'll want to make sure that you take the placement test before the December 21st deadline. If you're having any trouble with scheduling that, let me know. I know there was a little bit of some registration and technical issues that we had with logging in students. So let me know if you're having any trouble with scheduling things, and I'm more than happy to help set that up. You don't need to take a placement test, like I said, if you're not wanting to take anything above like that basic level for a Spanish class. So yeah, make sure that you've done that. You should receive your course schedule. The majority of you have already been enrolled. You can definitely continue to adjust this while you're on site as well. But yeah, let us know if there's any like major course concerns that you have, and we're always willing to work with Veritas for you to see how we can accommodate you as best as possible. You should have all received your homestay information at this point. So one thing I'd like to add to that is it's always nice you don't have to, but it's always nice for students to bring a little, you know, gift when they arrive for their host families. It can be a great conversation piece when you first get in Costa Rica too. Like if you were to bring them a mug that had like the name of your university on it or the state that you're from, you know, you can talk a little bit about what your school is like or what the area you live in is like. I think it can be a really good icebreaker as well, and it's good to, you know, show appreciation when you're living in someone else's home for an extended period of time who you're just meeting. So I think that's, you know, a very welcoming and ice-breaking sort of gesture to do. Let me know if you need any ideas on this. Also, one thing, if you're wanting to practice your language skills with your homestay family, that I personally really enjoyed was I brought Uno with me, and I taught my host family how to play Uno because I felt confident in my ability to explain colors and numbers. I didn't know what other game I could really explain beyond that point when I first arrived in Costa Rica, but that was received really well. So if you like board games or anything like that, that's just a personal recommendation that I have. In regards to social media, make sure that you're joining the Costa Rica Facebook page. There's a lot of important information that'll be here. It'll help you keep in touch with Lisa and other participants on the program. We'll be posting photos and videos, from excursions, and we encourage you to do the same as well because we want to see what a great time that you're having. Yeah, and then you can also, talk about what evening and weekend plans you're wanting to make on there as well. If you consider yourself to be a social media guru, let me know. We are always trying to find students who are interested in doing Instagram or Snapchat takeovers to showcase their experience to prospective study abroad students. So I remember even I did that when I went abroad. I sort of ran my program social media account for a week, and it was a lot of fun just to get to show my favorite parts of my experience. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know, but we want to stay connected with you while you're abroad regardless. And that sort of concludes the formal piece of our presentation. So like I mentioned before, we now will open up to any questions that students may have. So I'll read your question out loud to the group if you just type it into that question tab at the Go To webinar. And then Lisa and I can do our best to answer it, or we will follow up with you after the presentation if we don't have an answer for it now. Lisa, we haven't gotten any questions yet, but I'm not sure if you have any concluding thoughts or anything you wanted to share with the group or add to the presentation.
No, just that I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys. I hope you're all really, really excited. I'm sure you're going to have a fabulous time while you're here. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to email me or to call me or WhatsApp me. Yeah, and I hope you're all excited, and I will see you very, very soon.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so we haven't had any students type in questions, so hopefully that means that we answered your questions. Like I said, we have recorded this entire webinar, so I'll be sending out the link to this shortly. Also, please keep an eye out in your inbox for those pre-arrival instructions that we mentioned. A big thanks to Lisa for joining us, out of her busy schedule to co-host this webinar with me. You're in really wonderful hands with her to all of the students. So I'm very excited to hear about your experiences abroad. Let me know if you have any Costa Rica related questions. It is, where my passion for this field all started. So I'm more than happy to help answer those as best as I can. So yeah, I think we're ready to end the webinar, Lisa. If you don't have anything else to add.
No, hope to see you guys soon. Have a good Christmas and a very happy New Year.
Yes, happy holidays, everybody. And let me know if you have any questions after this webinar. Take care.